Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you today where I am in New Jersey. It's Tuesday, and it's the Feast of All Saints. So happy All Saints Day, happy All Souls Day tomorrow. And, this whole week, even with this gospel, we have a lot of talking about death, but I'll get into that in a second. As far as this week is concerned, this coming gospel, we hear about a widow who marries 7 brothers. And at the end of the day, it's not about that at all. The Sadducees, who are a Jewish sect, are trying to trick Jesus up, but he's wise and he knows how to respond to them. And at the end of the day, this whole gospel is about resurrection and our resurrection. So that was a topic basically that drove my lesson with the kids this week. I tried to give them a little more responsibility for this week, because I think that's important for them to get there gradually. So they did their opening prayer. They prayed spontaneously, and I can see that, they're getting more and more comfortable with that. And I was happy to see that. So we prayed for everyone and everything. And I thought it was so cute when they asked God to bless our lesson. I just thought that was wonderful, so that they could learn something. And I know they meant it. So they led it. And then you have to remember this particular age group, they're in the 5th grade. So we went ahead with the lesson. And as I said, the topic this week, a lot had to do with death. And, it's something we can't run away from. And we expect to discuss this around Easter time. But here it was with this gospel. And definitely the message was resurrection. In some of the other grade levels, the topic, especially the younger children, had to do with creation, had to do with, getting closer into the death message, but at their particular level. So again, we discussed the whole idea about death and dying. And for the older kids, the beginning story was about a boy who's going to visit a cemetery. It looks like it's like a field trip. And then there's a whole, what happens when you go to the cemetery. So this brought up a lot of questions for them and a lot of validations for them in terms of how they feel when they go to the cemetery to visit someone. Where is this going? We discussed certain things and what death is like. And for the little ones, it's so hard because they can't quite conceive the concept. I mean, even adults have a hard time conceiving the concept. So with the little ones, you can always talk about the fall. The leaves, they're beautiful, but they're dying. But we know in the spring, what happens. We will have new leaves on the trees and new flowers. And, that is the whole resurrection story. And of course, you can always use the butterfly story, depending on their age level. But the older children, they were ready to have some deep discussion. And I was kind of surprised at that. I thought they might want to have shied away from it. But they felt safe and, telling me stories of their visits to cemeteries and who had died. And, even for the little children, you can talk to them if they had an animal that died or something where they may sense someone in the family died. But it's hard because, as I said before, they can't really comprehend it all. They don't have the skills or the wherewithal to do that yet. So it's a very gentle process for the little ones. But these kids seem to be, a little more with it. And in terms of dying, they had questions, and they had questions about people in the family and how did they die? And, so it was very open, very honest. And I think that was better than leaving them hanging and wondering. We just dealt with it and talked about it. So I was pleased with that. And then, of course, came the talk about today, the Feast of All Saints, and the Feast of All Souls Day tomorrow. But going back to the Feast of All Saints, last year I had them do a little research on their names, and if their names had a saint's name, I asked them to do a little research and find out who that was. So they did. And Justin, of course, did Justin Martyr, and Sage, her middle name is Elizabeth, and she chose Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist. This year I said, choose a saint you might like to learn more about. So, and then just bullet points. You don't have to go into writing a whole, paragraph, but just what's interesting about them. So Justin chose Andrew. I have no idea why. Maybe because he has a cousin named Andrew. But he was, yeah, I'm going to learn all about Andrew. I said, well, that's good. And Sage says, I want to learn more about Mary Magdalene. And I'm like, oh my God. All right. As long as we can maybe undo some of the myths around her. So she can learn more about her. So it's going to be very interesting, and I'll be very anxious to tell you all about it next week and see what they come up with. So they're on their own figuring it out. I was happy with their engagement. They seem to be very engaged. And so at the end, I decided, instead of my choosing a prayer or a song, I said to them, why don't you choose a theme, that what word comes out, or theme that comes out of today's lesson? And there were a few. There was resurrection, there was heaven, there was death, there was hope, there was a whole slew of things. So they just would type in the name, and come up, find a song, and I wanted them to have more responsibility. I think that it gives them a little more ownership in terms of the lesson. So it was good. It was exciting in a way that I'm able to see their growth. And we did have to change the day because Halloween fell on a Monday, and Monday's our learning day. So we had to switch it to Friday, which was fine. And they were fine with it. So we met on Friday. And, we didn't want to get in the way of Halloween and all that. We even got into a little less on Halloween and what that means. The name Halloween, where it comes from, and why it's the night before All Saints Day, trying to emphasize All Saints. So that's what we did. And it seemed fine. Like I said, I'll be anxious to see what they come up with their saint research. And I also next week will do with them, since we just finished Unit 1 this coming Sunday, determines that's the end of Unit 1. We've already been through 8 lessons. I will give them the assessment at the beginning of the lesson next week for Unit 1. And that's always fun to see what they've learned, see what they feel they've learned, and have a little discussion on that. So that's it for now. Have a happy Saints Day. Have a happy All Souls Day tomorrow. And hopefully, you have a great week, and we will see you next week. Take care.